Hi there, Josefa. My name is Ellen. I'll be correcting these essays for you. Let's take a look at what you have done here. The first one is about schools and whether they should be more entertaining. Let's see what you said. As the world is moving towards the digital age, the question of which role schools should embrace has been a topic of debate for several years. Now you can see I had to make several changes to this sentence. First of all, it's not a question, and so it shouldn't be question form, even though you wrote question. It's just sentence form nonetheless, okay? And then your subject is the question, right? So it's a singular noun, so your verb should be a singular. So the question has been, okay? The rest of this, of which role schools should embrace, just characterizes what the question is. I hope that makes sense. So this is your subject, the question, has been a topic of debate for several years. While some argue that these places are exclusively for tutoring, others have claimed that to be focused on solely education is obsolete. I shall only advocate this second approach, and the reasons for it will be covered in this essay, not would, will. Okay, so fine. I think this is lovely in a lot of ways. I think that some of the grammar is a little choppy, okay, especially all those mistakes that were in that first sentence. You really want your introduction to create a good, solid, strong first impression on your examiner. So you want to aim for a little higher accuracy here, okay? Let's keep going. To begin with, it is perfectly clear to observe that more amusement is necessary in the classroom because students can get easily distracted when they are uninterested in the subject. This is largely because nowadays they receive this is awkward here. They receive, how about, yeah, this expression is not really right. They receive something, we'll figure it out, from the internet, which distracts them from the educational purposes. Several studies have proven that the pupil would not be able to learn properly if the class is dull and tedious. Therefore, if students are being entertained while they are in the school, they would remember and learn better the lessons. Okay, so what I'm seeing here again is problems with grammar. It in one area was a little incoherent, so you definitely have to be careful with this. And I wasn't really clear about what this was about. Let's try to go over this paragraph again, okay? So this was clear. You said that more amusement is necessary, okay? And then you said that they get distracted if they're not interested, and that's clear. But then they didn't understand this. You're saying something about them getting something amusing and enjoying from the internet, and that distracts them from educational purposes. So I don't get that. Like, how do you connect them having fun over the internet with them not being able to enjoy a lecture? I didn't really get that. So several studies have proven that the let's try it again. Several studies have proven that pupils are not able to learn properly if the class is dull and tedious. Therefore, if students are entertained while in school, they would remember and learn the lessons better. So essentially what the problem is this sentence here. It's just not really connected with anything. It felt kind of out of place. And so what happens in a case like that is that it could potentially affect two different areas of your band score. In other words, it's something that would be looked at both for coherence and cohesion because it doesn't really create a logical progression in your ideas, but also it doesn't really help the development. Like we don't really understand what your argument is here, and it wasn't really clear. Needed to be explained better, and it needs to be explained more fully. Okay, so it's the kind of mistake that could potentially affect both scores, two different scores. Okay, so let's move on. Nonetheless, it can be denied that schools must be focused on, I think you mean it cannot. It cannot be denied that schools must be focused on academic purposes to educate strong critical thinkers. Youngsters would have other opportunities, activities to feel entertained. All right, I don't really agree with this punctuation here. You have two totally different ideas, and so it's not enough to just use a comma here. When you have two ideas that are so separate like this, you either have to have some sort of a linking device to show how they're connected, or you need to have a semicolon, or you need to maybe even possibly start a new sentence, okay? But a comma itself alone is not enough. So probably, I probably would have put a semicolon here, okay? Or maybe a comma and then just instead, other youngsters would have other activities, okay? But you also made a mistake with this. It should have been cannot, not can. Take, for example, comma, ancient academic institutions where famous philosophers and scientists with an S studied. You could put a colon here, okay, like the two dots. Their only purpose was to be educated. Consequently, they transformed their era. However, these days, better professionals are not only trained individuals, but they also have, word order here, social skills, and this feature cannot be learned exclusively in the classroom. All right, that's a good point, and I like it, but it's not really related to what we've been talking about in this idea of entertaining classrooms. So, while I think the points you're making here are interesting, I don't think that everything you wrote here is entirely relevant. Um, let's see. Take, for example, they transformed their era. Okay. Um, Maybe this sentence could have been replaced with something else. Maybe you could have said something like, however, with so many more influences and so much um, more stimuli that children and youngsters get nowadays, such a method of learning is not possible and should not uh, be attempted to be replicated in the modern times. Something like that. That was kind of awkward, but I think you get my point. So that would have been more relevant. Now, the other thing that I want to suggest to you is that you probably should have reversed these paragraphs because here you're talking about what you don't support, and here you're talking about what you do support. So this paragraph, which talks about what you don't support, is called your concession paragraph. And that typically goes first. So introduction, then concession paragraph, then the side that you support. It's a better way to do this. It's not the only way, but it's a way I certainly recommend. So try that and you'll see that they link together better and that it gives this more weight. So, to conclude from the aforementioned arguments, more entertainment is the best way to engage the student with the educational process, and for the foreseeable future, it can be predicted that outdated places for learning, careful with your spelling, will totally disappear. All right, that was nice. That was strong. Good vocabulary, good grammar. So that was nicely done. Okay, I think you have a good idea of what the strengths and weaknesses of this essay were. We talked about it quite a bit, so let's go into your second one. All right, so now let's move on to the second essay. Let's see what you did here. Then doing an enjoyable activity with a child. Let's see. In today's world, the question of what type of activities are better for developing offspring's aptitudes it's the same thing that we talked about before. The question has been a topic of different debates. I'm not a huge fan of the word offsprings. We don't often use it for people. We usually use it for animals. So I see a lot of IELTS students try to use this as a synonym for children. And I got to be honest with you and tell you that I think there are some words that it's really difficult to find a synonym for. Sometimes the word children should really just remain children. And the same thing applies for parents. There are a handful of these words that there's just not really a point in trying to come up with a synonym because There's really just no better word for it, okay? So I would have just left this as children. Why don't we try that? In today's world, the question of what type of activities are better for developing children's aptitudes has been a topic of different debates. While some argue that reading has a crucial role, others have claimed that valuable skills are best acquired through pleasant activities. As far as I am concerned, even though reading is important, enjoyment has by far a pivotal role in a child's development. That's lovely. It's really lovely. I liked this sentence very much. That middle one here, that was really good. Just a couple of those grammar mistakes. Let's keep going. To begin with, it is perfectly clear to observe that not amusement, but amusing activities can improve some children's abilities. This is all right. Full stop here. You can't connect these with a comma. And look, it's like a whole sentence on its own. It's really very long. So full stop here. New sentence. This is largely because valuable skills such as encouraging to relate to others, creating respectful relationships, and solving their own problems can only be developed through making bonds with a toddler. Grammar is an issue here. Recent studies have shown that outdoor playing between parents and their sons could develop a virtuous character. Therefore, playing should be prioritized to improve the social abilities of the child. All right, that's good. But here you had some problems with this sentence here. So let's look at it. This is largely because valuable skills such as, this was weird here, maybe just relating to others, creating respectful relationships, and solving problems can only be developed through, you could have said, here's a great word for you, forging bonds with the toddler, because you already used creating. So I think that would have been nice. So yeah, I would suggest those changes to make this flow a little better. Let's keep going. Nonetheless, reading is fundamental in early stages because it, don't forget your it here, allows who to create? It has to allow somebody to create because it allows families maybe to create reading engagement for the future. All right, again, this is an awkward expression. It's not particularly natural. You wouldn't say this in English, to create reading engagement. So I think I know what you're trying to say. Let's rephrase it. Nonetheless, reading is fundamental in early stages because it allows, no, because it creates engaged readers in the future. Yes? Okay. A survey revealed that less than 20% of the population in the US reads daily. Don't forget your the. Therefore, acquiring a remarkable grasp through reading cannot be underestimated. All right, I don't understand this. So I don't understand what this statistic about the US relates to, how it relates to anything. And then I don't understand this either. However, it can be, I think you mean cannot. It cannot be denied that we can create reading habits and wait a minute. However, it cannot be denied that we can create reading habits in other life periods. Nevertheless, there are only a few years for real parenthood bonding. All right, this paragraph has some issues. Yes, there are some, little grammar things, but it just didn't, it was lacking both in coherence and cohesion and task achievement. It really just wasn't clear to me what you were trying to say. So I didn't understand how this whole thing about the US, how it factored in here, how it was related to anything. And then this whole thing here, um, like you have three very, very separate sentences, very different sentences. They just don't relate to each other. Well, four sentences, and they just don't relate to each other. So that's a problem, and it's going to affect, like I said, those two criteria: task achievement and coherence and cohesion. Because coherence and cohesion, because they don't relate to each other, they don't create a logical progression, and then task achievement because we really don't feel like you've developed the topic fully or that you've developed it, well. We really have some question marks here. We know that it's about reading and how you think it's important. So presumably this is your concession paragraph, but there are definitely some questions here. Let's see. Nonetheless, reading is fundamental in early stages because it allows families to create engaged readers in the future. How about this? A study discovered that 80% of adult readers were read to by their parents when they were in kindergarten. Okay? Let's see. And then I don't really know how to continue the way you've continued. Now, there's another problem here, okay? Where is the skill? Because remember, the essay asks you to talk about developing better skills. So great, you read every day or you were read to. What skill are you developing? You haven't really told us that here, so you're really missing the point. The other point that you're missing is this point about creativity. You didn't mention it anywhere, either in this paragraph or in this paragraph. So again, task achievement is seriously going to be affected here. So this one is okay because you talked about skills and you talked about fun activities, but this whole paragraph about reading really needs a lot of work. So you could have talked about a lot of different things here. Why don't we try it again a little differently? So, nonetheless, reading is fundamental in early stages because it allows families to create. Now, how about this? How about because reading is fundamental in early stages because it helps develop creative, articulate thinkers. Okay. A study found that children who read when they were in elementary school, or children who read in their free time in elementary school, had 60% higher scores on vocabulary tests and scored 40% better on tests of creativity. There you go. So you've got two statistics covering both creativity and vocabulary in one sentence. Okay, so that's how you would need to develop this. Okay, all right. To conclude from the arguments given, I personally advocate that amusing interplay improves an individual's performance in life, and we must encourage this type of activities among families and schools. For the foreseeable future, I strongly recommend educating parents and teachers about the key role of play. Not playing, play. All right, that's lovely, that's perfect. But the rest of this really needs work, especially this, in all the ways that I already expressed to you. So, next steps. Let's talk about what they are. Your first step is to correct these essays based on the suggestions in this video. Return that to us. With that corrected essay, or with the corrected essays, I should say, you're also going to send us a new set of essays. You'll get the task in your email. And you should also start an error correction list where you write your mistakes and the correct version next to your mistake. All right, so get that started. Let's meet back here with your next essays, and I'll be looking forward to it. So good luck.